So what happens when a 17-year-old girl and her two friends are just hanging out in the backyard, all of a sudden transported into this fantastical world where they're dealing with witches and kings and giants? Well, with me is author of The Strings of the Violin, Alisse Lee Goldenberg. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
So, okay, great book, great book. What was your inspiration to write such a thing?
Well, growing up, I had what I like to call two mothers in my house. I had my mom, my dad, and my booby. My grandmother also lived with me. And she would tell me all these stories and talk to me about all these superstitions from where she grew up in Poland.
Okay.
So I was thinking to myself, why aren't there any books out there that talk about that kind of mythology and folklore? I love fantasy. I love the Harry Potter series. I love all sorts of things like that. But I felt that there was a real wealth of fantastical information out there based in Eastern European folklore. So I decided to take it upon myself, and through some more research and everything, I developed this story revolving around her stories.
Okay. Now, how long did it take you to write this? Because you have triplets and a dog.
Yes.
Where did you find the time?
I've been working on this particular story and the research for it since I was roughly around the same age as the characters.
Okay. Oh, wow. So,
Yeah, it's been a while. And then when the babies were born, I have two boys and a girl, the first few months were kind of rough. I was doing what my husband and I like to call night shifts, where I would be awake with them all night and then sleep most of the day. And it's a lot better now, thank goodness. But in between feeds, I was thinking to myself, why don't I be more productive with my time?
right, because this is your first book, right?
Yes. I mean, there's nothing on TV. No one's going to be calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning to talk or anything. So I took the time to polish it up, add to it, edit it, and I decided, you know what, it's time. I want to put this out there.
Well, okay, so let's get to the plot.
Yes.
What does happen to the 17-year-old girl and her friends when they get transported?
Well, I don't want to give too much
away.
But basically, the gist of the story is the king of the Dybbuk's, which is another word for a sort of demon. His name is Asmodeus.
Asmodeus?
He has stolen the strings of this magical violin.
Okay.
And the violin provides the music, or the soul, for the magical land of Hadaria. And to save the world, the three girls must get them back from him.
Oh, so get the strings back.
Yes.
Okay. And what types of adventures do they face?
As you mentioned, there are witches, there are giants, there are talking animals. Even something as harmless looking as a tree is more than it appears. And so they must find their way to his castle and get the strings back, but along the way make sure that they don't fall into other traps or dangers that could be lying in wait for them.
One of the things that I found interesting about the book is that there's no love triangle, so to speak. So
Yes.
Why is that?
That was a conscious decision on my part. I decided this is the first of what will be, hopefully, a successful series. Something that was very important to me growing up is the friendships that I had. My very best friend, I've been friends with her since junior kindergarten. I have another friend who's been a good friend of mine for the past 12 years, and I'm actually going to be one of her bridesmaids in her wedding coming up soon.
Oh, wow.
And those friendships between girls, and they are a basis of who we are. I believe that a good girlfriend is something that you can treasure forever. And I didn't want to kind of muddy the waters by throwing in boys and cat fights and all sorts of things like that. I wanted to focus on the strength a good friendship can give you and how you can grow as a person through that.
Well, that's really admirable, because when I think about like some people, especially girls sometimes, you know, look at some teenage girls, they could be hard on each other.
Yeah, they could be very catty sometimes, but if you have a true friend by your side, you can surmount even that sort of behavior in schools and everything.
So, so Carrie, the main character,
Yes.
is that you in your fantasy life?
Yes and no. I threw aspects of my own personality in all of the characters, and I took bits of who my friends are and put them in others, and so they're kind of like an amalgamation of everyone and everything I've known growing up.
Now, the sub-characters, the trees, the witches, the
Yes.
fox. What is the fox's role in the book?
Adom is the emissary to the good king of Hidaria, and he has been tasked with finding a savior for the world. So
Not a small task at all.
no, not at all. I mean, if he messes up, it's pretty big. But I kind of wanted I guess, a doorway character, a gateway character who kind of does the big exposition dumps. But
Right.
at the same time, I wanted them to know that they had someone on their side in the magical world at all, as well.
So he was the transition guy.
Yes. He's the one who kind of shows up and says, guess what? This is what I need you to do.
Hey, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Now, how do they get transported?
There's a line in the book at one point where they're told the ways between worlds are many, you just need to look. So it's kind of along the lines of, if you look hard enough, you can find a way to get from boring, normal reality into someplace magical and wonderful.
I think that's true to life in
Yes.
general. In fact, I love your Yiddish proverb, do not question fairy tales.
There's a lot of truth in fairy tales. There's also another proverb, and I may be butchering it a little bit, but fairy tales tell us not that dragons exist, but that they can be conquered. So
okay.
it's kind of that sort of idea. There are bad things in reality, and there are bad things in fairy tales, and fairy tales give us the strength and the knowledge to know how to become a stronger, better person.
Absolutely. Now, who did you write the book for? Last question.
When I first started the book years ago, there weren't any babies. And I started it originally for my baby brother, who's just over 9 years younger than I am.
Okay.
So I started it for him, and then as I continued it, I realized, you know what, I want my children to know the same stories I grew up with. I want them to know where they came from and to know what culture they belong to and everything. So I continued it and finished it for them.
Well, I think you, in your attempt to finish it for them, I think you've finished a wonderful book that will be
Thank you.
enjoyed by many, many, many. And I believe it will become a series.
Thank
so
you
get
very
working
much.
on number 2.
I am, yes.
Thank you very, very much. For more information, go to AlisseLeeGoldenberg.com. Now, here's one of our volunteers, Charmene, with your community events. Thank you very much. Really
Thank
great
you.
read.